Hi, and welcome to the 5 hidden secrets to shatter your invisible income ceiling forever. My name's Mark Tosoni, and thank you for being here. You know, people have been asking me, like, Mark, how can I make more money? And how can I make more money and enjoy more fulfillment? And they've also been asking, how can I enjoy more fulfillment and have more free time? Those have been like 3 things on people's minds. So I wanted to share a few tips and techniques and strategies with you today that I'm certain will take your income to the next level and help you to shatter your invisible income ceiling forever. So the very first tip, technique, or strategy here is you've got to love what you do. If you're not loving what you do, you're going to be stuck. You know, I can remember back in 1992, I got into the alarm business. I found a mentor in an industry that I absolutely loved, and the time came where I developed my skill enough that my mentor said to me, it's time for you to train the group. Well, at the time we had 45 salespeople, and I stepped in front of those salespeople and I did a sales training. It was the first one I ever did in my life, and something magical happened. I discovered that I had a knack for talking to people, for talking to groups and entertaining them and teaching them strategies and techniques, and I realized that I was good at this. I'd never known that before that time, but not only that, I loved it. Well, do you know that year, my income went from $50,000 a year to 6 figures, and from 6 figures, I went from $100,000 to $200,000 the next year in personal income. Why? Because I found something that I loved. I loved the alarm business, and I absolutely loved coaching, training, and teaching other people. So the key here to shatter your invisible income ceiling is you've got to love what you do. Now, if you don't love what you do, I'm not telling you to quit your job. I'm not saying that. What you want to do is you want to discover what it is that you do love, and then you got to figure out how you can make money doing that. So maybe what you could do is you could bring that into what you're doing. Or maybe you could do it part-time. Maybe you could do it on weekends. Maybe you could do it at night. You've got to find what it is you love to do. If you can make what you love to do what you're doing for income, to me, that is the best of both worlds. That's what pro athletes do. That's what musicians do. That's what people who just love what they do, and these are the people who prosper at the highest levels. Other people are stuck in jobs, J-O-B, just over broke. They're stuck in a job that they don't even like. They're doing it because they need to, because they are chronically insecure and they want to feel safe. Don't take that the wrong way. I've lived this, okay? I understand what this feels like. Don't take it the wrong way. But that's what happens. We get stuck in these jobs, and next thing you know, we're not doing what we love. We're doing what we're programmed for. You see, friend, we are biologically programmed for safety and survival. We are not programmed to thrive and prosper. We're programmed to survive. So you have something going on within inside you. That's why I call it the invisible income ceiling. It's invisible. It's biological that you're going to work towards safety. But now all of a sudden you say, wow, what a concept. Maybe I could go to that next level. If you're making $30,000, maybe you could go to $100,000, or maybe $250,000, $500,000. And maybe you could become more in the process of doing that. It's not just about the money, it's about who you become in the process. But you've got to love what you're doing to get there. So tip number 1 is to make sure you love what you do. If you love what you do, you're going to get there. Step 2, you've got to increase your skill. You know, today in America, we have tens of millions of people on food stamps. They've been displaced from their jobs. Their jobs have gone overseas. Factories are shutting down. What's happening is their services are no longer needed. No disrespect. But you've got to ask, is your service needed? Is there a need for what you're offering? Even if you work for someone else, is there a real true need for what it is you do? If you're in a JOB, a lot of times a JOB only pays a certain amount. That's the way it is. So if you want to get past that, if you want to bust through that, if you want to shatter that invisible income ceiling, what you got to do is you got to increase your skill. And there's 3 major areas to increase your skill in. Number 1 is mental emotional. Number 2 is in your communication. And number 3 is in your confidence. So let's talk about mental emotional. This is your psychology. How well do you deal with stuff? How well do you see it? How well do you perceive it? Do you perceive it like a winner, or are you perceiving it like a problem? A lot of people are chronically focused on the problem. They're not focused on the solution. Winners, millionaires, superstars, business achievers are focused on solutions, not problems. You've got to increase your psychology. So one area you can work on increasing your skill in is mentally and emotionally. Your psychology. Number two, your communication. I don't know anybody who wouldn't benefit from better communication, influence and persuasion. Even if you work for a company, if you can influence and persuade at a higher level, I know one thing. I'm certain your income's going to go up. You're going to become valuable to that company because you can bring in profit. You can bring in sales. They got to pay you more, but you got to be willing to increase your skill. And last is your confidence. I've yet to see somebody who is super successful who does not have amazing confidence. How can you build your confidence? What do you need to do? What skill would you need to learn? Who would you need to do it with? How would you need to get it out there in order to build your confidence? You've got to take some actions to build your confidence, and there's probably something you know you need to do, but you're not doing it. Take that step. What is it costing you not to? Ultimately, what is the pain you're going to get if you don't take that action? You see? So if you build your confidence, you increase your psychology, and you build your communication, your skill level is going to go through the roof. And as that goes through the roof, guess what follows? That's right, your income. Okay? Next step is you got to make a decision. So if you want to if you want to shatter your invisible income ceiling, increase your income, you got to decide. You got to make that decision. You know, in my life, I made a decision. I was in the car business. I quit college. I had a 1.8 grade point average. My father was ready to kill me. My father had his PhD. I told him I'm not going back to college. I had a 1.8 grade point average. I absolutely hated it. And I started selling cars. So he had a dream for me. He wanted me to go to college and be successful, go work for a company, blah, blah, blah. That was his dream for me, right? That wasn't my dream. I had a dream that I wanted to get into business. But he wasn't entrepreneurial, so I had to find my way on my own. So what I did, I started selling cars. The next thing you know, when I'm selling cars, I noticed that the owner of the car dealership has something on his watch, on his wrist, called a Rolex. I never even knew what one was. They're driving nice, fancy cars. These people are making money. They're making six figures. You know, by mistake, I started to believe that I could make six figures. I was 19 years old, just turned 20. From 19 to 20, started selling cars. My first year made about $18,000, but I saw these other people making six figures, and I somehow bought into that, and I made a decision. I'm going to become a six-figure guy. And that was a decision, and that's what you've got to make, is you got to make that decision. You don't need to know how that's going to happen. For me, it never happened in the car business. I actually left the car business for that to happen. I didn't know how that would happen, but I knew I wanted it to happen, so I made that decision. So decision is going to be so imperative. It's going to be so important if you want to shatter your invisible income ceiling and take your income to the next level. In addition to that, in addition to deciding, you've got to be willing to take action. So I'm going to ask you a question here today. You know, most people I talk to actually know what they need to do in order to get to where they want to go. They actually know this. If you ask them, they might say they don't, but really deep down, they know they do. My question to you is, if action is so necessary, what actions is it that you're not taking that's preventing your income or holding your income stuck right here? What actions are you not taking? What actions, if you did take, would make your old ceiling your new floor? What actions, if you did take, would take your yearly income, turn it into a monthly income? And my question to you here today is, what is it costing you not to not take these actions? What's the ultimate consequence for you to not take the action? So make a decision right here, right now on this video that you're going to do something to take action. You know, not too long ago, my wife and I decided that we needed to clean our garage. It was a disaster. Things were piling up on the garage. Furniture and Christmas equipment and lawn stuff and leaves and just bicycles and things were everywhere. And it was all piled on top of each other. What I did is I made a decision, we're cleaning this garage. I didn't have anybody to help us clean it yet, and I know I wasn't doing it myself. But I made a decision that we were going to clean the garage, so I started. I led from the front. I made the decision. I went out there, and I took action. And for 20 minutes, I cleaned a little corner of the garage. When I looked back at the garage, I got overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But I made a decision to do it, and I cleaned that little corner, and I made that little corner nice and neat. Well, that took place on a Monday night. Do you know by Saturday, we had 2 men over, and those 2 men emptied that garage out with the help of my wife and me. They brought in organizers that they purchased at Home Depot for us. We got the whole garage organized. Now there's bicycles hanging from the ceiling, lawn furniture is where it's supposed to be, yard furniture, Christmas accessories. Everything is nice and neatly organized exactly where it's meant to be. Why? Because I took that action. So I'm going to invite you today to take an action. What is it you need to do? Do you need to clean your desk? Do you need to clean your garage? Do you need to get up there in your closet? What does it have to do with making money? What it has to do is you're building your action muscle. You've got to learn to build your decision-making muscle, but you got to build your action-taking muscle as well. So if there's actions you know you need to take, start with small incremental changes and make it a habit to take those actions, because you're going to build that action-taking muscle. Because in order to shatter your invisible income ceiling, you're going to have to take actions. You know, the difference between somebody who's super, super rich and somebody super, super broke could be said. It's just the actions that they've taken. So you're definitely going to need to take some actions. That said, the last step is follow through. If there's no follow through, there's no results. And for me, I really struggled with this particular thing for a long time. Do you know I've actually written books and I had them sitting in a closet. I forgot all about them because after I had written them, I couldn't get the follow through done, all the little details. You know, they said I had ADD and I was dyslexia and all this stuff. So for me, follow through was challenging. So I got to really focus in. But you know what follow through comes down to? It comes down to discipline. And it comes down to this. What will it cost you if you don't do it? What are the consequences of me not getting those books out there? What are the consequences of me not making this video, following through, getting somebody to help me, etc., etc. So follow through is critical. So to summarize all this, you've got to love what you do. You've got to increase your skill. You've got to decide. You've got to take action and you've got to follow through. And when you do these things, you are going to shatter. You're going to obliterate your invisible income ceiling. Your income's going to take off like this. You're not even going to try to make more money. It's just going to show up. That's what's happened for me over and over again in my lifetime by focusing on these things. I'm Mark Tosoni. Thank you for being here with us today on the 5 hidden secrets to shatter your invisible income ceiling forever. And I'll look forward to hearing about your success story real soon.